Okay. So today's lecture, our walk is about scent in the garden. And we're going to kind of walk around and enjoy various scents. Now, what's the reason that plants produce scent? Yes, exactly. Communications. And in some cases, they want to attract something to come to them. They don't move themselves, so they need to communicate with pollinators. Say, hey, come here, pollinate me. And in other cases, hey, if you're near me and you can smell this, go away. Okay, that's the opposite case. That's usually with herbivores, pests of some sort, bugs and animals that are eating the plant. There's a third reason that plants produce scent, and that is communication from plant to plant, or from plant part to plant part on the same plant. A lot of these scents that we'll be smelling today, they're all volatile compounds, which means that they evaporate into the air, and that's how we smell them. And that's if you don't move your plant, you don't move. That's a very quick way to communicate. Is to put out a compound that is detected very rapidly, within seconds or minutes somewhere nearby. We are going to start right over here. So this is our first stop. Most of the plants we're going to smell today we're smelling the leaves. Okay, there are a few flowers we have to smell today. It's one of those cases where you should have been here last week, right? There was lots of fragrant flowers last week, and then in a couple more weeks, there'll be a lot of fragrant flowers. But we could play that what's that smell game in the garden all year round practically, and come and do this same tour almost on a weekly basis and have different things to talk about. So we're going to see a lot of plants like this today. This is Nepeta, early bird. Nepeta is catnip, or some people call it catmint too. There's a lot of the common names are reused amongst these plants. In this case, we are going to be smelling the foliage, and it is one of those things where the foliage scent is to deter herbivores. Okay, and I'm going to pick a few and pass them around. And the scent of a lot of these, this is in the Lamiaceae family, and the scent of a lot of these is minty or bubblegummy, or a mixture of mint and bubblegum. There's some fruit, there's some camphor. There's a lot of different scents in here, and it's literally different from cultivar to cultivar, the different scents. Let's see, this one. There's some bubble gum and some mint and some other stuff. It's a weird combination. So I'm going to go ahead and bruise the leaves and take a sniff and pass it on. Whose nose is better than mine? What else do you detect? I get a mint and a bubble gum. That's my interpretation of it. I don't know what y'all's interpretation is. Nepeta and plants like it. We're going to walk by a bunch of these today. Tim really likes planting this type of plant. Kind of a low-growing ground cover. Blooms over a long period of time. Attracts pollinators. And if you were to walk by it and brush by it or grab a leaf and pinch it, you have something to smell. Really nice. Actually, it's a great design concept to use in your garden, is using these scented plants, not just the ones whose scent is emanated out to you, but rather the ones that you can touch the plant and activate the scent.
Is this a good one for repelling snakes?
For snakes don't smell like we do, but so I don't know. Probably not, but it does. These leaves have this scent, and they have that fuzzy texture that is to repel things that want to eat the leaves, like deer and rabbits and things. Where's Marilyn? Did deer eat this in your garden?
No.
No,
No,
okay.
they do not.
That's a miracle, because they eat everything else in your garden. So there you go. So super deer tolerant if it lives in her garden. All right, let's move on to the next plant. Okay, so the next plant we're going to talk about is Gardenia. It is easily my very favorite scented plant in the garden. I have some in my own home garden. I don't have this particular one. This is a dwarf selection, Lynn Lowrey. Lynn Lowrey was a famous gardener 30, 40, 50 years ago, who was also a plant collector and collected a lot of plants. And there are several plants with the cultivar name Lynn Lowrey in to honor him. This one's a little bit earlier than the others. It's the only one I saw yesterday on my walk around that was in bloom. But gardenias are getting ready to pop. In my mind, it's usually a early June type of plant, a late May kind of plant. And the flowers on this emanate a smell that just fills the area. It's just a wonderful smell. It's my very favorite garden smell. I will frequently go around the garden when mine are in bloom and pick a bloom and just walk with it like a nosegay or a boutonniere, you know, just sniff it like this. It's wonderful. So I'm going to pass this around. Please take the flowers. There's plenty of buds on here. We're not going to be ruining this for other people, but I'm not going to pick too many. Very floral, very powerful. You can smell it a long way away. Now, the thing about flowering plants is the strength of their scent varies from moment to moment within a day and throughout the bloom cycle too. So in this case, this is a scent being generated in the flower. Its goal is to attract pollinators. And so if the flower is not ready to be pollinated, it's not quite mature, it's not going to be producing much scent. And as soon as it's pollinated and it no longer needs to spend the energy to produce scent, it's going to stop producing the scent. These flowers, sometimes you're going to walk by them and they're really strong, sometimes not so much. And also time of day plays into this as well, because these are volatile chemicals, and temperature helps them volatilize and get into the air better. So these are the smell of this type of plant is usually stronger in the warmer part of the day. And here we are in the cool part of the day. Some of the things that I had planned on talking about that smelled great yesterday afternoon on my walk around are a little bit muted this morning, but you know, just stick around all day and come back at 3 and you can enjoy them as much as I do. So Gardenia jasminoides. There's a lot of selections of this. Tall, short. This particular type of flower is called a pinwheel flower. There are double flowered ones, larger ones, smaller ones, or little ground covery gardenias. It's a great plant for the South.
Is that the mature height, or how old do you think that one is?
Lynn Lowrey, this is the mature size of Lynn Lowrey. Okay, so about 3 feet tall and a little bit wider.
Pretty short.
Yeah, pretty short. Typical gardenias can get 6 to 8 feet tall and wide. So this is a very small selection.
Would you know which ones can take more shade and still bloom well?
Not off the top of my head. In my experience, every one I've ever had in the shade doesn't bloom as well. Yeah. Okay, we're just going to move over to this plant next. Are there any final questions? Okay. All right, the next plant on our tour is this one here, Piper auritum. And it is called the root beer plant. Okay, and the scent is in the leaves. So I'm going to pick a leaf, and I guess I can just tear it up and share it with everyone. Bruise it and smell it and pass it on. It should smell strongly of licorice or root beer.
Oh my gosh, it does.
This is actually a relative of black pepper. Okay, and this plant here is from South America. It's not even supposed to be hardy here, but this has been hardy, root hardy for us. It dies to the ground. Root hardy for us for many years. And it's a wonderful, wonderful scent if you like that black licorice scent, which I do.
So do critters eat it?
Less, not so much. Yeah, the whole purpose of the scent in the leaf is to deter the critters. For us here, it's a little dieback perennial. It's actually native to the tropics of Central America, and there it's more of a vine. And it does produce a nice white flower that sticks up above the foliage as well. In Central America, the fresh leaves, not the dried ones, but the fresh ones are used in cooking. Okay, for all different breakfast, lunch, dinner, all kinds of different things. So we do occasionally propagate this and have it for sale, and it's a cool plant to have. We are going to walk back this way, and we are going to stop in front of McSwain. All right, so this next plant, this is a North American native, Acerum canadense. You'll see this if you go hiking out in the woods, and it is called false ginger. And in yeah, it's this little ground cover plant down here. And in colonial times, when people around here didn't have access to real ginger, they would dig up the roots, and the roots have a distinct gingery scent, and they would use that instead of ginger in their culinary and medicinal practices. I would say I don't recommend doing that. This plant is in the family Aristolocaceae, and it has compounds that are toxic to your kidneys and cause cancer. So don't do it anymore, but we're gonna certainly smell the roots. I'm gonna dig a little chunk up and pull off the roots, and we'll pass that around. It has a distinct gingery scent. And I'm trying to go in the back here so I don't disturb the plants up front. Well, it's a native, so technically it can't be invasive. I don't know who asked that, but it does spread a little bit. This is in ideal conditions, okay? And so it is nice and filled in thick. We don't have a problem with it going elsewhere, though. So it's not, I wouldn't consider it invasive on several definitions of that. All right. It's also still got some flowers on it. The flowers are actually produced down at the base of the stem at the ground level, common with a lot of these acerums. That's because their pollinators are creepy crawly things, beetles and collembolas and other little ground dwelling organisms. It's the roots that we're interested in. So I'm gonna separate off some of these roots. And we're gonna break them up and smell them, and we're gonna note the, and I'm sorry, you're gonna get dirty fingers. We are gonna note the nice gingery scent of the roots of this plant. Yeah, anything underground that might wanna eat it. Moles and voles, right? Insects that are ground dwelling insects that might wanna eat it. Perhaps even fungi, other pathogenic organisms that are not, they're, like bacteria and things like that. A lot of these things have, and I mentioned medicinal uses, a lot of these things do have antibacterial properties.
Just wondered why the plant would go to the trouble to develop that.
Exactly, it is actually spending energy to make that scent. There is a reason for it. Yeah, great question. Any other questions? Now we all have dirty hands. All right, we're gonna move on to the next stop then. So I'm not gonna pick this flower and pass it around. I'm gonna let y'all come up and sniff it. It's yesterday there was 2 or 3 in bloom. Today there's just one. It's one of those things where, this is a magnolia, by the way, southern magnolia, Magnolia grandiflora. Any of you who don't have this in your garden really need to get one. It's absolutely beautiful with the shiny evergreen leaves. Very, very large flowers produced this time of year. There'll be a spring flush and then on and off throughout the rest of the season. Attractive seed pods that grow out of this if they're pollinated. Just a lot to love about this plant. So it's a U.S. native, southeastern United States. It produces gigantic flowers. This is a small cultivar. It's normally a quite large tree, can get up to 60 or 80 feet tall and almost as wide. This selection here is a dwarf selected for smaller gardens. This one's called Teddy Bear, okay? And it produces slightly smaller flowers. The flowers have a really wonderful lemony scent to them. Whenever you have a fruit or a citrus scent, the plant is trying to attract beetles. Okay, it's beetles like fruit and citrus. It's butterflies and bees that like sweet scents, and we're gonna smell some pretty awful scents coming up, and those are trying to attract flies. Okay, take a look at the tree. This one's pretty much full size. So what is it, 25 feet tall maybe, and half as wide. This is a dwarf variety of it. If you have a lot of space, you can get a big one like D.D. Blanchard, which produces a lot of flowers and has a nice form and can get 60 to 80 feet tall and wide. Okay, I would, if you're gonna do a magnolia in your garden, go with a named selection. In the wild, magnolias vary quite a bit in how pretty they are, how well branched and tight and full and thick they are. And so if you just go get a seed out of the forest, you're probably not gonna get one that's nice and thick and full like the named varieties are. Any questions about Magnolia? Yeah.
Is that when I'm not seeing much of the brown indimentum on the bottom of the leaves?
Okay, so the indimentum, which is the hairs on the bottom of the leaf, it's better on the older leaves. It also varies greatly from cultivar to cultivar. Some cultivars are known for having incredible cinnamon brown indimentum. One that I have in my garden called K. Paris is a dwarf with even better cinnamon brown indimentum. It doesn't flower quite as well as teddy bear, but it depends on what you're going for. And my wife, who's here today, likes to bring in branches of this to decorate at Christmas time, and you can be looking at that or that. You've won either way. This time of year, in late spring and early summer, these are evergreen. They do shed some of their oldest leaves, and you can see the litter down at the bottom. It's very thick and leathery, and does make a bit of a mess. I would recommend, if you do have a magnolia, not to limb it up, because then all that litter becomes very apparent instead of being hidden underneath the branches. Any other questions about magnolia? All right, let's move on over here then. All right, we are now in our scree garden. This is a puffed up mixture. It's garden soil mixed 50-50 with this stuff called permatil, which is a puffed slate rock. It makes this very well drained. And in here we have a lot of our desert type plants that like really sharp drainage. We're going to talk about two plants at this stop. One of these is one of my favorites. Of course, I've already said that, haven't I? Oh well. This is called chocolate flower. All right. So it smells like milk chocolate. I'm going to go ahead and pick the blooms. And luckily for us, the scent is strongest in the morning, and it fades away by the afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and pick 4 and pass them around. This is Berlandiera is the genus. I forget which species this one is. There's several. Subacaulis. There's another one that's more common called Berlandiera lyrata, but this is what we have here. So on the flowers, you see these little brown things in the middle. Those are the actual flowers. The rest of them are just they're not fertile. It's these brown parts that are fertile, and they have the scent in them. So you want to get a flower that has a good amount of the little purple or brown rings in it, and not as fragrant as it was yesterday, but it does smell like milk chocolate. And of course, my fingers already smell like everything else I've touched today, so who knows? Is anyone smelling milk chocolate? A little bit. There are times where that smell is very strong, okay? And you can smell it, you don't even have to get up close, you can smell it around the plant. Great plant. Obviously, it likes well-drained conditions. We have it in our scree garden. It will rot out in regular garden conditions, but it can tolerate a lot of drought and heat too. So it's a great heat and drought-loving plant. So that's Berlandiera. All right. The next one is native to Mexico and the Southwest United States. Chrysactinia mexicana is the species name. Daminieta or something like that as the common name. I just call it Chrysactinia. This grows native where like creosote bushes grow. And this has for similar reasons to deter herbivores, this also has a very creosote-y chemical scent to it. So I'm just going to split this up and pass it around. And pardon me while I choke on some pollen or something. Yesterday when I was walking around getting ready for this tour, by the end of my walk, I was in full-on hay fever from having picked and sniffed so many things, just trying to decide if I was going to talk about it or not. Very creosote-y, very chemical-y scent. On a hot day, that scent wafts around too. You can smell it. We're not quite hot enough yet, but later in the afternoon, that scent will be stronger. The chocolate flower, on the other hand, its scent peaks more in the morning, and by late afternoon and evening, it's more or less gone. Plants do that. They time, especially when we're talking about scented flowers, they will time the peak of their scent. Not only is it to tell the pollinators, hey, I'm ready to be pollinated. Depending on what pollinator pollinates the plant will adjust to the timing of the pollinator. So if it's a moth and it's active at night, the scent often comes at night. If it's a butterfly or a fly or a bee or something, it's active in the day, the scent peaks during the daytime. And there are some things like 4 o'clocks later in the summer, they peak in the early evening in the crepuscular or vespers time of the day because there are certain pollinators that are only active during twilight. Okay, any questions about chocolate flower or Chrysectinia? Probably not. It is very chemically smelled. Did you smell it? It's very chemical. Yes, it's all parts. It's generated inside the plants in glands along the stem and stuff. So yeah, and it is seeding around, as you can see. It's the seeds actually blow on the wind, and we've had it seed up on top of the roof from here. So it is a wild plant. It's not necessarily well behaved, but it's not out of control either. It's the kind of spreading around that I personally like. It spreads around a little, very, very, very drought tolerant and heat tolerant. So you could plant this once it's established and you could ignore it and never water it again. It's used to the desert Southwest.
How long does it bloom?
It blooms over a very long period, many weeks, maybe even into months. Yeah, and it's probably one of those cases where if you deadhead it or shear it, it'll extend.
What does it look like in winter?
It is brown. It goes dormant and it loses its leaves. It looks like trash. Wild plant. It's not a really well-bred plant. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? I'm sorry. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm going to mention real quick. We're not going to stop and smell them, but you'll see that we have hundreds and hundreds of different salvias in the garden, every one of which has fragrant leaves to deter herbivores. The leaves can be minty, they can be lemony, they can be camphory or medicinally, but they are something that herbivores don't like, deer and whatnot. I just wanted to point them out that you're going to see hundreds and hundreds of them on our walk, and they all have scented leaves. They all fall into the category of this walk today. You can actually already smell this just by walking by it. It smells very oniony or garlicky, and that scent is coming from the leaves and the flowers. It actually produces a bulb. It comes from the bulb. This is, let's see, Allium canadense variety florosum. It's a cultivar called white flag. It's a white flowered variety. This particular one, it's called meadowed garlic is the common name, and it is edible. A lot of these ornamental onions are ornamental, but they are also edible. The leaves, if it produces a bulb, the bulbs, even the flowers and the seeds. I'm just gonna pick some flowers, pass them on, bruise or pinch or do whatever you want with the parts, and you can smell a very strong garlic scent. You could add the flower petals to a salad. You could add them to a meat dish or a veggie dish. You can dig up the bulbs. Here's some more. The claim to fame of this particular one, this species here, not only, as you can tell, it seeds around, like a lot of the chives and garlics and onions do. But this particular species also produces bulbs at the top of the stem, and it can run around that way too. This variety here, white flag, does not produce the bulbioles, so it makes it slightly less weedy, which is good in this case. Any questions about onions? Clearly they make wonderful garden plants, yes.
How long do the blooms last?
It blooms a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, maybe a little longer. Yeah. And then it'll produce seed heads with little black seeds on them. And you will have the foliage all season, and the foliage goes away in the winter. It would prefer full sun. It also prefers a drier situation. And if you have a garden where drought is a problem, you have a spot that doesn't get irrigated or whatever,
Right.
Great plant for it, yeah. And I do see we have some reversions. So here's an example of the bulbules. So it does revert back too. You can see these little bulbs. These are little bulbs growing inside the flower. So this part of this crop has reverted back at least. We need to get rid of those. Otherwise this becomes enormously more weedy than it is. Anyone want some bulbules for their own garden? Or no, did I warn you away? Wisely, yes. All right, we'll leave them there for Tim. Any other questions? All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna cross the patio and go up the steps. There's a jasmine on the patio, and the only reason I didn't include it in the talk is that yesterday when I went by, it had absolutely 0 scent. So yeah, it's one of those things that, yeah, we certainly could include jasmine in a talk. Yeah, it's very nice. I noticed it too, and I was like, dang it, I should have, yeah. All right, so our next, not all smells are necessarily good smells to us. This flower here, Amorphophallus cayusianum, and this is one flower with a stalk that goes all the way down to a bulb that's underground. Once this is gone away, a single leaf will come up, a very nice palm-shaped leaf, very, very intricate. The pollinator for this plant are flies, okay? And what do flies like? They like dead animals and they like poop, okay? So please come by and smell. Now this was in full flower yesterday. It was in full scent. Today it's muted because it's past its peak. Okay, but get in there, don't be afraid. It is gonna smell like a dead animal. It is much faded. There are actually ones with fresher flowers at the end of our tour. If you really are hankering for a really bad smell, I can take you by those. But this is an incredibly beautiful plant. Look at this flower stalk with the spots on it and the white flower, and the leaf, when it comes up, is cool. Also, when this gets pollinated, it will produce berries along this stalk here. And those berries are blue to pink, depending on their level of ripeness. So there will be some blue ones at the top and some pink ones at the bottom. It's a wonderful, wonderful garden plant. This particular one is a seedling. Cayusianus has started to seed around the garden for us a little bit. There are several Amorphophallus in the trade that are hardy in the area. The one, my favorite, is Amorphophallus konjac, which I have in my own garden. Slightly bigger flower, doesn't seed around, but it produces a very large bulb, and that bulb is actually edible. They eat it in Japan. So I'm gonna walk up to the next stop. Y'all can sniff this on the way up. It's mostly gone. You can smell a better example of it later on. Any questions about Amorphophallus? Once per year, and sometimes not even once a year. Sometimes it'll skip a year. All right, so this is one of our hardy citrus trees. We have 2 in this bed here, and about 120 years ago, there was a lot of breeding work in citrus. There's a hardy citrus it used to be called Panseris trifoliata, now it's called Citrus trifoliata, and it's hardy up into zone 6, but it produces a terrible tasting fruit. It smells good, and it's a pretty plant to have in the garden, but they were crossing it with the edible citrus to see if they could get a marketable, edible, cold-tolerant citrus. Well, they got cold tolerance, and they got somewhat edible, okay, and that's where we're at today. So we have another one over there, and this one here, citrus flowers, orange flower, very fragrant, smells very nice. We're past the flowering stage. I'm just gonna, and you gotta watch out for the thorns. There are thorns on this, but the leaves, when you crush them, smell nice. This is a very beautiful tree to have. It's evergreen. It produces, and here's a little immature fruit. Okay, this particular one is the hardy citrus, Panseris trifoliata, crossed with a sour orange, and it produces a lemon-like fruit that is edible. It's got a really, really thick rind. You really might just want to more use it for the zest than the fruit itself. It's very, very, very sour. So you could use it as a lemon replacement if you wanted. Watch the thorns and bruise the leaf and sniff it and pass it on. It's a nice camphory, citrusy, camphory scent. Is that what you're getting?
I'm getting like a citronella can.
Yeah. The problem with this tour is as you continue on the tour, you're going to accumulate more and more smells on your hands, and you're also going to be saturating your nose. So by the end of the tour, you might not be able to smell anything except onion. Any questions about hardy citrus? This one here is called Citradia. The one down there is called Citrumello. It's more like a grapefruit flavor. Yeah, I don't like grapefruit either. But those who do, you dump enough sugar on it, it's certainly edible. But the fruits of this and the other are big and orange or yellow, and they are their biggest and most colorful in like late October, early November, and they smell good, and they make wonderful, just a bowl of them in your house. even if you don't eat them, it's a real nice decoration because they are pretty. A lot of these citrus are parthenocarpic, which means their fruits are actually clones of mama. They're not the result of sexual reproduction, and that happens a lot with the oranges. They are beautiful fruits, and they do litter the ground in November timeframe. Come on back in November and pick one up off the ground. You're doing us a favor. Clearly, it's a tree, and this one is not as big as the other one, but we're looking at 30 to 40 foot tall evergreen trees in the garden. All right, moving on. We're gonna turn left and move up onto the rooftop. Some of y'all are already noticing that to get here, we walked by a bunch of really cool fragrant plants, and why am I not talking about them? Rosemary and lavender, and that's just because it's for time reasons. If we do another What's That Smell lecture, we can certainly talk about rosemary and lavender. This is our rooftop garden, which also features plants that like well-drained hot conditions, and we do have a lot of rosemaries and lavender selections up here. Feel free as you're walking on by to just wipe your hands, grab it and wipe your hands, and then it's wonderful. The lavenders and the rosemaries. I'm going to talk about this guy because this one's probably a little bit less familiar to a lot of you. This is a Polyomintha bustamata is the species name, and you can tell it's got kind of a shrub form. Later on in the summer, it will produce salvia-like flowers. It's in Lamiaceae. It's a relative of like salvias and stuff. This is Mexican oregano. Okay, and you can use this culinarily. Most of you who've grown oregano know it as a kind of a ground covery thing, or maybe spreading down over the edges of your pots and things like that. This is more of an upright little shrub thing, and it's really nice. And if you come in, I'm not gonna pick the leaves, and just come by, and it has a very, very nice oregano scent to it. Native of Mexico, northern Mexico. Probably a little bit into southern Texas as well. I believe it is evergreen, yeah. I'm gonna move to the corner for the next bit. Y'all don't even have to move. The plant I wanna show you is actually growing all along this wall here, but it's mostly, there's some here at my feet. This is Thymus zygus, and the common name of Thymus zygus is Spanish thyme, okay? You can use it culinarily. It does produce a nice, rather large flower head. It produces copious amounts of seed too. We have it in our index seminum every year. And if you come by and just rub your hand up it, it has a beautiful thyme scent to it. Okay, so this is a great, it's growing all along the wall here. It's a great scented plant. Any questions about Spanish thyme?
How long does it bloom?
A long period of time, at least a month. And the seed heads that come after it are also attractive for the rest of the season. Okay, moving on. This is another example. This is Hedychium coccineum, a cultivar called Disney. Nothing special about the cultivar. Hedychium coccineum is any of you who grow hedychiums know they can get pretty tall. Some of them can get 8 or 10 or 12 feet tall, and those taller ones tend to fall down because they're not woody, they're just herbaceous. This one stays lower, so it doesn't fall down as much. Has orangish flowers. Hedychiums bloom at the end of the growing season. I'm talking August, September, into that time frame. Beautiful, beautiful flowers that look like orchids, kind of. This is going to be another one where we're going to smell the roots because they smell like ginger. Okay, that other plant, the Asarum canadense, which is in the Aristolocaceae family, and you should not be consuming in any way because it is cancerous and hurts your kidneys. This is a relative of ginger, of the edible ginger, and is, although you'd really want to get the edible kind, they're the most potently fragrant. This one is also nicely fragrant. And so just go ahead and enjoy the nice ginger. So I'm going to cut off little coins of it and you can pass them around. Yeah, I think a lot of you are still just smelling onions. It is from places hotter than North Carolina, so when it goes dormant, it often can be quite late to emerge. Some of these don't even emerge until late June or early July. This one is not one of those clearly, but we did have a mild winter too. Hedychium is a really nice garden plant, very tropical looking, banana or canna-like leaves. It does kind of spread slowly on rhizomes. And like I said, in the late summer, really tall stalks of orchid-like flowers, very, very pretty. The flowers are generally white or yellow, pale versions of it. There are dark orange and dark yellow cultivars as well, which I like hot colors in my garden, but some people don't. And there are even some red ones, reddish orange. Yes.
What family is that in?
Zingiberaceae. It is a cousin of Zingiber officinalis, which is the edible or the culinary ginger. And there was, if we had gone just a slightly different path, we would have gone by an even closer relative, Zingiber myoga in the Asian Valley, and it also has a strong smelling root. Zingiber myoga, you can actually eat the flowers too. It doesn't produce flowers at the tops of stalks. It produces flowers at ground level, and little white flowers are sometimes yellow, and you pick them off, and you can eat them raw, you can cook them and eat them, and they're great. They taste like ginger.
The edible ginger, does that grow here?
It can, depends on, you have to protect it a little, but it can grow here. Or you can grow it, dig it up, throw it in a garage or someplace cool over the winter, and then replant it. Any other questions about hedychium or gingers? All right, in the instance of time, we're gonna go to our last stop. So that's the rose garden. We're gonna take a little walk. All right, I thought it was appropriate that we end our tour today in the smelliest place in the garden, in the rose garden. Luckily for y'all, the sun has come out and it is warming up those petals. Rose scent comes mostly from the petals of the plant, in special glands that are embedded in the petal. And so now they're being warmed up and that scent is being volatilized into the air and we can smell it. I'm not going to talk about a particular rose. I'm going to talk about roses in general. And then you're going to be free to go around and sniff every single one of them if you would like. Roses, humans have been breeding roses for hundreds or even thousands of years. There are European roses, there are Middle Eastern roses, and there are Asian roses. And in the modern hybrids, they have some of all of those in them. As recently as the 1950s, breeders were mostly concerned with flower size, flower color, and not about the scent. And so in the 1950s, a professor did a survey of all the cultivated roses and found that only 25% of them or 20% of them even had a strong scent. 25% had absolutely zero scent, and the rest had something in between. But only 20% of them he categorized as having a decent scent, a good scent. Breeders have kind of changed focus and with the interest in more kind of old-fashioned type things, and they are still interested in producing a variety of colors, a variety of plant forms, vines, shrubs, low-growing shrubs, disease-tolerant, bug-tolerant, and producing beautiful fruit, things like that. But they're also now concerned with scent again. Roses, since most of these are hybrids of many, many species, they have a complex mix of scents. Okay, so there are basically 5 or so categories of scents you might smell in rose. So as you go around and are smelling the roses, see if you can detect one or more of these categories of scents. All right, the tea roses have a tea scent to them, and it is a light floral scent that includes the scent of tea leaves. It'll be a floral scent with tea in it, okay? So see if, as you're smelling it, you can detect some tea. When I was a little kid, my great-grandmother had a rose-scented hand cream, and that's what I associate with a classic rose scent. And I think about my grandmother when I smell a rose that has this, it's called the old rose scent, okay? And it's a rich, deep floral scent, and it is most common in the red and the pink roses. It is less common in other colors. There is another category of scents you might detect in roses, that's fruit scents. Fruits are actually in the same plant family as things like as apples and pears, and so there's often an apple scent or a pear scent, raspberry scent, strawberry scent. Some roses even have a citrusy scent to them. So as you're smelling the roses, see if you can detect any fruit scents in them. I have a rose in my garden at home. It's just a wild type rose, and the foliage actually has a green apple scent. which is pretty cool. It's an eglantine rose. It's one of Shakespeare's favorite roses. We don't have that in here. I was looking it up. I was hoping we did. You might also detect a musky scent, which is also called damask. Okay, that is not being emitted by the petals; it is being emitted by the stamen, and it is almost an animal musky, spicy scent to it. Okay, then the fifth category is myrrh, like frankincense and myrrh. Okay, myrrh. It is a slight licorice or anise-like aroma. Okay, you can also there are other scents, clove, cinnamon, nutmeg, or even pepper. So please go around and enjoy all the roses, stick your nose in them. That purple one right there I was smelling this morning, it was particularly fragrant this morning. But this morning, the roses hadn't heated up and there was very little scent in here. Right now, I can smell them all the way from here. So this is certainly the kind of place you want to be in the afternoon, in the heat of the day, rather than in the morning. I guess that does it. Thank you guys for coming out. Please go back to the plant stand and buy some fragrant plants. There's at least 3 that are fragrant.